Okay, I believe we're recording. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Cook. I am the Executive Director at Made in Baltimore. Made in Baltimore is a program that supports and promotes makers and manufacturers in Baltimore City. We're a program of the Baltimore Development Corporation, and we are proud to be presenting this, let's call it our 10th in the Tools of the Trade workshop series, which a digital learning series we began back in June of 2020. This series is really meant to support entrepreneurs in Baltimore. We have a focus on digital marketing in this round, and we're excited today to have Alanah Nichole Davis giving our presentation on crafting the perfect call to action. We have a number of past workshops that are available on our website, madeinbaltimore.org. You can find it on our blog there, which is where this session will eventually find itself. Before we get started, I want to also thank our sponsors, M&T Bank and the PNC Charitable Trusts, for making this series possible. With that, I think I am ready to hand it over to Alanah. Briefly, Alanah is a friend of the program, a neighbor of mine, and a digital marketing guru in her own right. We've had the opportunity to work together in the past through her role at Impact Hub, and we're excited to have her today to kind of give her own take on how to run a digital marketing campaign. So with that, I think I want to just hand it over to Alanah.
Thank you so much, Andy, and to Brian, who's also here from the Made in Baltimore team. You guys have been so amazing and so helpful to me in the past. I love the Tools of the Trade workshops. I'm going to share my screen. I'm sad because I won't be able to see all your faces, but if you are here right now, before I get into the presentation and you want to turn your camera on briefly so that I can see you and feel your energy, please do so in the next 10 seconds, and then I'll get started. Oh, hello, everybody. Look at all these faces popping up. So yeah, I just wanted to see your faces. I'm so glad. Thanks for popping in. I'm going to go ahead and hit present. This is going to be a fun workshop. I want you to feel good. I want you to take breaks when you need to. I want you to breathe when you need to, drink water, stretch. We're going to be here for a little bit. I'm excited to have you, and just make sure you keep yourselves on mute as to avoid any audio issues like Andy said. Okay. Here we go. Screen sharing. All right, can everybody see?
That's a yes on my end, Alanah.
Yes. Okay, awesome. All right, so again, this is Made in Baltimore's Tools of the Trade workshop, creating the perfect call to action. This is a beautiful drawing of me that I had created early last year. Get drawings of yourselves by local artists. They're really cool to add into your presentations. And I'll talk a little bit more about the types of things we should be including when we're doing calls to action. I'm going to read this because I want to give you an example of some tone and inflection as I'm reading, things that I'm going to draw on later in the presentation. And then I want to tell you about how background really doesn't matter when you're creating a call to action. Anybody can do this. It doesn't matter if you're, a marketing guru, or if you've done this before, or if you don't have clients yet, if you're an individual artist, or if you're working on the behalf of an organization. I'm going to make sure that I hit points for everybody. But first, I'm going to read this really quick, and then I'm going to tell you why none of it matters. But just listen for the tone and the inflection in what I'm saying, the confidence, that kind of thing. Alanah Nichole Davis, that's me, 29, is a mother of two, writer, curator, and performance artist from the Bronx, New York, based in Baltimore City. That's where we live, most of us. Davis currently serves as the marketing and outreach manager for Impact Hub Baltimore. Her written works have been published in Baltimore Magazine, Baltimore Business Journal, Be More Art, Technically, Baltimore Times, and her contributions to the community have been bolstered several times in the Baltimore Sun. She is a current candidate for her Master of the Arts in Social Design at Maryland Institute College of Art, where she is set to graduate in 2021. That's 15 weeks and 4 days from now, everybody. You can clap for me. She was admitted on scholarship for her merit, as well as she was awarded the Leslie King Hammond Scholarship to this university for her outstanding community engagement and cultural contributions across many sectors in Baltimore. And then there you'll see that I have listed all of these amazing organizations, foundations, and initiatives that I've been a part of over the last couple of years. And I'll tell you why none of it really matters, right? And then I want to do a little bit of an introduction where we'll kind of go around the room, because I just want to hear what some of you guys are also doing. It really, the background, what I said and the way I said it, makes you believe that there's a reason you should be here learning these things from me. And when we're creating a call to action, that's what you're doing for your customers, for your audience, for the people that follow you on social media, for the folks who come to your websites, to your meetings, to your events. You are piquing their interest. So, you'll notice that in a lot of my bio, I'm naming things that you would be familiar with. You want to be naming things that people are familiar with, things they can draw on. You know what the Baltimore Sun is. You know some of these publications. You know some of these organizations. And so it's kind of already providing a basis or a foundation for you to say, well, Alanah is qualified to tell me or to teach me some of these topics. And so in your introduction, I want you to kind of take a couple of notes from me. I know that some folks, deal with social anxiety. I don't want everyone to go if you don't feel comfortable going, but what I'll do is really quick, I'm going to hit escape on the presentation and we'll pop right back in. But I want to at least do a little round robin of 5 folks where you will tell us your name, share your pronouns with us, what your position, brand, or initiative is, why you're here today. And if you don't mind, in that, I'm going to give you some pointers. So I want this to be hands-on. This is not just going to be me talking at you, but you participating with me. And so as we're creating calls to action, it's really important that we understand that calls to action are both oral and written. So we'll talk about the Instagram stuff, we'll talk about captions, we'll talk about essays and blogs, and we'll talk about all that good stuff. But I want to start out with what we have first, our most powerful marketing tool, which is word of mouth. So I'll hit escape. If you're here with me right now, if your camera's on or you want to unmute yourself, does anybody want to go first before I call on someone?
I'm happy to go first. This is Destiny. I am nursing
Please.
boy, so my camera is off just to be respectful of everyone. I am the mama that would nurse in front of everybody, but I want to be respectful in this platform. So I am Destiny Williams. I wear a few hats. One of my favorite hats currently is that I'm a self-published author. Just published my first book, Birth in the New. I am an administrative professional for the Fund of Johns Hopkins Medicine. It's a philanthropic nonprofit organization that raises money for all of medicine research. And I am an editor for a self-publishing vehicle company called Silent Books Publishing. And you guys already know that I'm a mother. So that is a synopsis of Destiny. Thank you for the opportunity, Alanah.
Thank you so much, Destiny, for putting yourself into the space, for being vulnerable with us. We learned a couple of things about Destiny. And so I would love if someone could go next. I don't want to pick on anybody. I don't want to do that. But if you want to go next, please, we'll do 2 more, because I would love to just feel your energy and have you guys put yourselves into the space, and also for you to produce a call to action in real time. That's what you're doing.
I can go.
Awesome.
My name is Lisa Williams, she, her. I am the co-founder of What's Your Grief, which is an online grief community that invites people to come and share their experiences with loss. My background is as a clinical social worker and grief therapist, and a person who has lived a life with a lot of loss, like many of us. And I guess my invitation would be, if anyone wants to join the What's Your Grief community, you can find us online and share your grief.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for sharing that with us and for your invitation to your community. I believe we follow each other on Instagram, so I already feel like I know you.
That's how I found out about this. So yes, absolutely.
And that's important because we'll talk about how folks find out about things. And so if anybody wants to go after, we'll wrap after that introduction because I don't want to keep you guys too long, or we could do two more. I'm open and flexible. I just want you guys to kind of hear yourselves as you're talking, what some of the points you are bringing to the table, and what you might be able to give to some of your peers in this space. So if someone wants to go next.
I'm happy to go next. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm Letitia Coates Young. I'm the assistant director at Baltimore Homecoming. And, you know, a big part of the work that we do is dedicated to drawing alumni back to the city and helping to shed light on grassroots organizations. And I'm here because, you know, as we're like trying to fundraise during the pandemic, it's hard to really like put our finger on exactly what it is that like people want to see, what, you know, what will capture their attention, how to get them to open emails, how to get them to click and share on social media. And so, you know, I guess it's like, okay, on one hand, you know, do we need to completely change what we're doing? You know, is it just us, you know, tweaking it? But, you know, I saw this and I'm like, oh, I need that. So let me go do that.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that, Letitia. And if I could just get one more person to go, and whoever goes next, please tell me why you're here also. So like, I love how Letitia said, this is what I'm looking to improve upon, because I would love to help you in real time. I want to answer your questions. I made a presentation, but I'm also going to veer away from it based on your needs, because that's what I'm here for. So who's next?
I can go next, if that's
Please.
okay. So my name is Anna Ellis, she, her, and I am about to start a new position next week with the Baltimore School for the Arts Foundation. So I'm going to be returning to, you know, crafting calls to action as a piece of my day-to-day. And so I'm really excited to be getting back into this work. And basically my new role is going to be expanding the outreach of the school with the Baltimore City school community. So yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited to have you, and congratulations on your new appointment over there. That sounds amazing. I'm hoping that this workshop will be helpful for you. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. If anyone else is just like, or you're just a person who gets really anxious and maybe you have to wait a little bit and your feet are cold, and you know, please let me know if you need to go. Nobody? Okay. We're gonna go ahead and move forward. All right, so boom, we already took our coats off, we introduced ourselves. We have a couple of things to do. I kind of distilled it down into like this 5-step process, even though it's probably a lot more. What we're first gonna do is define what a call to action is and talk about it. Second, we're going to talk about the art of storytelling and the importance of disclosures. We're going to talk about vocal fry. We're going to talk about brand voices. We're going to talk about leads, and we're going to talk about some of the greats, people who do this really amazingly, people that I watch YouTube videos of, or anytime they're on TV, I tune in. I would love to, hold on, let me hide this. We're going to go over examples of calls to action together. And you will share some of your own. So even right now, at the beginning, we're not at step 3 yet, but start to think of, you know, some calls to action that you may have already created. It could be on your personal Instagram, it could be on your professional Instagram or Facebook or your Twitter. And once we define it, you'll have a better idea of what you could pull up. But please, I would love if a couple of folks would be able to share that with me here today. And then fourth, we're going to go over a CTA glossary. I say CTA for short. We're going to talk about the abbreviation in the next slide. And we're going to talk about passive and powerful verbs, how to use them, what some of them are. And I also, like, after this, I have websites, things you can go to. I haven't cobbled it all together here in this slideshow because there's so much you could say about calls to action. And then fifth, we're going to, let's do what's helpful for you. We're going to do like a Q&A. You're going to tell me what you need. I'm going to help you. How's that sound? Good? Okay, boom. So, Alanah, what is the definition for a call to action or a CTA? A call to action is a statement designed to get an immediate response from the person reading or hearing it. But it's also a story. Like I said, you're painting a picture for your audience, getting them to buy into an idea or a membership or a show, or a breastfeeding pump destiny, or whatever that might be. Like, whatever it is, if Baltimore's homecoming is happening, anything. It could be an ad for anything. It's an expression, a couple of words cobbled together. It could be a whole essay. It could look like a video. It could be a picture. It could look like any of those things. Does anybody have any questions about the words call to action at all, please? Okay. You could also hold them in.
I have one,
Oh,
Alanah.
yes, please.
Is it always a question? Does it always end with a question, or like we invite you to do blank, or is it sometimes like, I am doing this and I want to share it with you, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it doesn't always look like a question. It could be one word. It could be no words. It's not always a question. It could, honestly, we'll talk about ambiguity in a little bit. And how important that is for some calls to action. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions about the phrase call to action, what it might look like? Does anybody need clarification about what you might want to pull up later on when we share examples with each other? Okay, cool. I'm going to go on. And earlier I talked a little bit about, why it doesn't matter. Some of you might be here, some people are starting new positions as soon as next week. Some people might be here with goals in mind about how they want to use calls to action in the future, or a call to action in the future. I want to talk about, like I said, in my history, I have all of this experience now with doing calls to action, but it wasn't always that way. And like I said, in my bio, I'm not yet degreed. I don't have a degree in marketing. I just am a really good storyteller. I learned how to use words, and I want to give some of that to you here. So, the history of storytelling goes back thousands and thousands of years. Our ancestors, didn't have certifications or degrees to do that, and we don't necessarily need it either. It's great if you do have it, but I also just want to wash that imposter syndrome away. So if you're feeling like, oh, well, I'm not really like an adsman, or you're watching shows and you're feeling like you're not necessarily that person, to want to influence somebody, or maybe you only have 500 Instagram followers. Everyone has to start somewhere. And so I just made this cute little timeline to make you feel a little bit more welcome today. Boom. Okay, so what's a story? We talked a little bit, like I said, about the fact that like stories just have like this really deep and rich history. I know for me, a story that I like to share, one that reminds me of why I'm so passionate about creating or crafting a call to action, is my grandmother. So I'm from the Bronx, New York. I came here to Baltimore when I was 8 years old. But prior to that, I spent many of my days at my grandmother's house when my mother was working full time. And so in that time in my life, my grandmother had a house phone. And I don't know if you remember house phones at all, or if you remember them being mounted on the walls of homes. But my grandmother had this beautiful yellow, just like my dress, this beautiful yellow house phone, and it would ring and ring, and she would not answer it because telemarketers, or Even sometimes there were people who might have been family members who would be calling the house and she just would not answer. My grandmother is what I would think of as somebody being a hard sell. You really had to pique her interest in order for her to answer that phone. There was no caller ID. She didn't know who was on the other line, but she was very firm in whether or not she wanted to talk or not at all. And there are some people who we find here today, even when we do tell the most compelling stories, like what I just did, who will still not listen to us when we're online, when we're talking to them through captions, and when we're having conversations with them about events. You know, it just doesn't matter to them what you're saying. They're never going to answer the phone, just like my grandmother would never answer the phone. And when she did, she would be very brief. And she always said to me, if it's something important, they will call back. And so that kind of stuck with me as I continued to, go into my career crafting calls to action, is that you don't want to just do this once. When you tell a beautiful story, you want to tell it over, or you want to create callbacks or memories for people. And there are a couple different ways we can do that, and we'll talk about that, how you can call someone's memory into creating or crafting your perfect call to action. Does anybody have any questions about what I just said, or about crafting a story, or have any questions about why memory or nostalgia might trigger response in someone when we're trying to either sell or pique their interest about something? We can also hold them until the end, but I just want to make sure that I'm being clear and concise. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next slide. All right, so we have different types of narration. I'm a writer by just innate. I don't know how it happens, but I just am. It's kind of like a gift. Yeah, I've always been good at writing. I'm not good at math. Is anybody good at math? If you're good at math, please unmute yourself and say, woo.
Woo!
Thank you for being a good sport. So there are three types of narration, three main ones, and we've all seen these before back in grade school, but it's really important to revisit and redefine them, as we are, professionals now. We're trying to use this in order to create a perfect call to action. So we have first person. In this point of view, a character is telling the story, and you'll notice a lot of I and me and we in first person narration. And so that's what you heard when I was telling the story about my grandmother. We have second person, and in this point of view, the author uses the narrator to speak to the reader, and you'll notice a lot of you and your and yours in second person narration. And so, when I'm talking about you guys, being now career ready or your new opportunities, that's second person. And then we have third person. In this point of view, an external narrator is telling the story, and you'll notice a lot of he or she or it or they in this form of narration. And these are all really important to remember. So screenshot it because it's so pretty, or you can just look these up on your own. There are different kinds. There's like first person omniscient. There's all kinds. I mean, we could get into a really, really deep rabbit hole, but this is probably what you'll need to be like crafting anything like an Instagram caption or, a regular story online, or, but we'll get to that. Any questions about first, second, or third person narration? Okay. Okay, here's where we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of the things. We're going to stay on this slide for a little bit. We're also going to come back to it if I feel like we need to. But 5 things you should know about oral and written storytelling. There are levels of disclosures. That's on the next slide. We'll talk about the different levels of disclosures. Basically, the higher the level of self-disclosure in the story, the deeper the connection you're going to make with your listeners or with your readers. And we'll talk about that on the next slide. We'll watch a short clip together about vocal fry and what it is. If you know what it is, please don't say it yet, because I want the folks who don't know to get the information in the video. We're gonna decide on a brand voice. You don't have to decide on it right here and now, but it's definitely something you want to think about. You know, whether you're talking in first, second, or third, and your captions matters. Whether or not you're being consistent with it. In general, you know, Instagram users don't expect a formal or a serious tone. Maybe on Facebook it's a little bit different. Twitter, it's even more informal, and of course, it all depends on the industry and the audience. But you should strive to keep things light, use humor where appropriate, and show personality. And that might vary because a lot of times in marketing roles, you won't always be in that role. It might be someone else posting the next day, or there might be a takeover, but there should always be a set tone, or you know, there should be like an advantageous tone to like what you're saying, and it should be pretty homogenous after a while. You also have to kind of decide like if the voice is curious, bold, or authoritative. And what I mean when I say that is like, earlier someone said, well, is it always asking questions? Is that voice always asking questions when we're creating a call to action? And sometimes you'll say things like, well, how are you feeling today? Or like, I'm wondering if you need a new bottle of hot sauce, or like whatever it is. Or is it bold? Is it just saying like, buy this, buy now? And we'll talk about those words and we'll talk about those verbs. Or is it authoritative? Is it like really just saying like, you should be here? I created a campaign for Impact Hub Baltimore, like I think it might have been it's almost 2 years now, but it was, you belong here, period. It just said, you belong here. We're a co-working space, you belong here. Like it didn't matter, I would put it after anything or before anything, you belong here. It was just 3 simple words, very authoritative. It wasn't curious, it wasn't saying, do you belong here? It wasn't saying, will you belong here? It was like, you belong here. So there's a difference between like those different phrases and how you should use them. And then always when we're creating captions, we want to use important words first, and we'll learn about attention economy. And we're going to watch a couple great people. So first we'll do levels of disclosure, because this is one of my favorite things. So we'll go to the next slide and then we'll jump back. Okay, so when I told the story about my grandmother, that was like medium disclosure. Okay, but we'll talk about the different levels and I'll tell you why it was medium. And when I say disclosure, I just mean like, how much of yourself are you sharing in this story, of the brand or of yourself? And even for big brands, this is really important, because a lot of people overlook some bigger brands if they can't find themselves in it. And we'll talk about that too a little bit later down in the slideshow as we get into captions and creating images and all that. Also, let me just do quick. Okay, cool. Just looking at my time. Light disclosure it involves amusing anecdotes about yourself and the world around you. Light disclosure tends to be brief with a clearly defined beginning, middle, and end. This tends to be a quick little anecdote about something funny or interesting that happened to you in the course of your daily life. So let me think. Like a light disclosure would be, you know, me telling a story, you know, maybe because Destiny and I are both parents, we could probably both relate to the fact that like babies throw up every day and, you know, they use up a lot of cloths or rags and I have to wash them, and we might chuckle about it. It's very light. It doesn't take a lot of depth. We're not going to talk about the color of the baby spit. We're just going to laugh about it. It's very light. It gives us both this feeling of camaraderie, and it makes us feel like we could both buy into something together. So like they do this a lot in ads. Like you'll see, like if you watch commercials or even sometimes in like stand-up comedy. And so we will really quickly, I'm going to shoot back to the last slide, and I'm also going to join this level of disclosure with one of the greats, who is Richard Pryor. He is insanely good at this kind of a thing. And we'll watch a short clip. This is a clean clip because we know Richard can be raunchy.
Wow. They were cool. White folks who really play electricity. I used to always want to sing myself. Did you ever want to sing? Anybody? You know? No, I tried, but the dudes used to always say, lay out. Have you ever tried to sing on the block? No offense. You know, when dudes just be hanging around, just be singing, you know, you have a little wine or something, you know. Like, Oh, wait a minute. Remember, there was a song, man, dudes used to love to sing like, silhouette, 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 silhouette. Nah, you see how bad I sing? So I played basketball. And I played that bad too. But it was cool to be on the basketball court, you know, because you look so.
So like, this is like one of my favorite examples of like light disclosure. So I don't know if you want to unmute yourself and tell me, has anyone ever seen a stand-up with Richard Pryor before?
Yes.
Okay. And whoever just said yes, can we agree that sometimes Richard's level of disclosure is a lot higher than what he just did?
Yes. It actually, I've been watching him recently. My partner is a fan, and
Yeah.
it's really hard to digest. Really, really hard to digest. And some of the things that he says is not even, wouldn't even be okay in today's comic era.
Absolutely.
I was going to say
Absolutely.
the same
Like,
thing, that I personally am not a fan, but my husband is a fan, and there is definitely a disconnect, between the comedy and just where we are now. Very interesting. And if I'm being honest, like I haven't heard like any of his stand up in quite a while. So I won't say it's triggering to hear, but it's definitely interesting.
absolutely. I hear that, and I feel that like when I watch stand up from like 1970 something, and this is another thing that we need to think about as we are disclosing things is either individuals, personal brands, and even larger initiatives, nonprofits, is the more you share, you know, the more your personal story is out there, the more your business story or your origin story, if you're a nonprofit or a business, is out there, it gives people either the chance to deeply connect with you or really deeply disconnect with you. You know, Richard Pryor is one of the most crash people I could ever think of. That was actually a clip of clean comedy. So like he has some clips that are really bad. We can't show them here today, but I encourage you to go on your own. And I want to give you the trigger warning, like someone did say when they unmuted themselves, that a lot of what he says is not relatable in today's, you know, pop culture or, you know, social media world. If you posted a clip of Richard Pryor on your Instagram feed, you would surely be canceled. But his level of disclosure in that, in the example I wanted to give you, is that he talked about himself. He said that, you know, he wanted to sing. He talked about those, like, quote unquote, those barbershop quartets that would be on the corner and how they would untwist their bottle caps in the middle of them singing. He talked about the fact that he decided, because he couldn't sing, that he was going to play basketball. So he gives you, in just those couple of seconds, all of these examples about him, things that you can connect to, you know, but there might be other folks in the room who felt like they could connect to what he was saying. And if he was trying to tell you something, or if he was trying to tell you about an event, or even if that was a part of the promotion for his Netflix special or something like that, you would be more apt to go and buy it. You would be more apt to go and subscribe to it. You'd be more apt to go and share it if it's relatable to you. But if it's not, then it's a different story. I want to talk a little bit, since we're talking about like these amazing orators, I want to talk a little bit about vocal fry. So we'll watch this clip together really quick. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, please, yes.
I'm sorry. I have a question, Alanah. I just wanted to know if you can speak a little bit about considering these levels of disclosures in addition to assessing your audience. And just, I can just use myself as an example. Sometimes I'm thinking about because I'm an open book, if disclosing too much could harm my audience, and how would you suggest we properly assess our audience, or even if that's necessary, before we're deciding on a story to tell?
Absolutely. So I could talk a little bit just about myself and my own, like my levels of disclosure. I'm someone who uses heavy disclosure on social media, right? I'm also a stand-up comedian. Andy has seen this before. And so sometimes when I do comedy or when I'm posting on Instagram, I'm using extremely heavy disclosure. I'm using a lot of personal stuff. Even today, I made a video right before the workshop where it was my daughter and she introduced it. And, so I'm putting my kids, I'm putting things about like my dating life, I'm putting all types of things. And so I guarantee, and please unmute yourself if you're one of these people, that one or two or maybe even 5 of the people that are in the workshop today are probably folks who do follow me on social media, but in spite of that still can see through that persona that I've created and that heavy disclosure that I've created for myself, to see that I'm still a workshop teacher, a mother, a consultant, that I'm trustworthy. There's different things you can see even through that heavy disclosure. So you can kind of just gauge it. If you post something that's really light and you get a lot of engagement, I like to say 100 likes are archived. Like I get really anxious if I don't get like and it's not, this could just be me and my like millennial mind, but like if I post something and it just doesn't get a lot of traction, it doesn't get a lot of reaction, or it's getting negative reactions, or you're getting DMs where it's kind of like, hey, like, is everything okay? You don't want to be in that side, especially if you are a business or an initiative. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you. From what I gathered was be holistic about your brand.
Yeah.
Also be very present in the response that you get from whatever you put out.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. And we'll talk about medium disclosure. Gets more serious because it involves your beliefs, opinions, and ideas about the world. This is a riskier proposition because there's someone out there who's bound to be affected, Destiny, like we talked about, by your thoughts and your feelings. Medium disclosure is best for after you have established some degree of rapport with your listeners. I've been on Instagram for over 10 years at this point, I think. So like at this point, a lot of the people, probably a good 2,000 of them who have been there for a majority of that, have already gained this trust, and they know me. It's like, you know me. But if you're a newer brand, you want to kind of stay into that light disclosure. And I'm just talking about my personal brand because it's easier for you to relate to that. But this could also go for like business pages too. Does anybody have any questions about like when they should scale to like medium disclosure? If you have any questions at this point, please just let me know. I'm here. I would love to elaborate for you.
Yes, elaborate on if you're a newer brand and you started with light disclosure, when do you assess moving into medium or heavy?
Absolutely. So a couple of the key words here in like medium and heavy are that they're going to begin to affect someone's thoughts and feelings. And a lot of what people decide to either buy into something with are their thoughts and feelings. So if they feel badly about the things that you're saying, they're probably going to feel badly about the product or the event or the speaking engagement or the workshop. And so you don't want to create any dissonance immediately. So if you're newer, I would just keep things light. Destiny, I personally know some of your brand just from following you on Instagram. So I think you're doing an amazing job thus far. You include your family. There are amazing clips. They're clear, they're concise. So if anybody else, like when we get to the end of this, wants to share, their pages or anything like that with me, I would love to definitely to help them assess whether or not they're at light, medium, or heavy disclosure. I'm going to move away from disclosure because I do want to get into some of the other clips about vocal fry, and we'll probably do the small piece about attention economy and move on. How's that sound, everybody? Good. I know you're nodding your heads. Let's do vocal fry.
I have this like sort of fry, and I think it's really brilliant. Fry, brilliant.
Did you hear that? That thing where her voice got kind of low and scratchy? That's called vocal fry. Listen again.
I have this like sort of fry.
This vocal habit got some media attention in 2000.
Just real quick, can you guys see it?
No.
No. Okay. Could you see the thing about Richard? You can hear it, but you couldn't see it. Okay. I see what's happening. Hold on. Hold on. All right, can we see now?
Yep.
Awesome.
I had this like sort of fry, and I think it's really brilliant. Fry, brilliant.
Did you hear that? That thing where her voice got kind of low and scratchy? That's called vocal fry. Listen again.
I had this like sort of fry.
This vocal habit got some media attention in 2015.
Okay, hear the way that her voice kind of creaks on the word pipeline? That's vocal fry.
Pipeline.
People tend to notice it in women and judge them unfavorably for it. In our Women in the Workplace series, we're looking at some of the challenges when...
Okay. I'm going to minimize this really quick, and then I'm going to go back to my presentation. Okay. So vocal fry is what you were hearing in the lingering, in the way they were lingering on those words, and it was kind of like that sound that people do when sometimes they might be orating. And I wanted to talk a little bit about it and like why it's important. And there's even some like discrimination that's happening with it. You know, a lot of times for women, for that kind of drawl when we're creating messages. And I wanted to talk about this because a lot of times when we're doing things online or we're creating videos for a brand, you know, you want to make sure that you're being extremely clear, and that you're kind of staying away from things like vocal fry, but also I understand that it's something that people, you know, just have in their voices, and I know that I do it even sometimes. And so is anybody else familiar with vocal fry, or like how it might sound or what it might do? Does anybody want to share an example? Or I saw a hand raised.
I can share briefly. I have a lot of feelings about this because we have a podcast and have had criticism over time. I have really bad vocal fry, and so some people, I've read a lot about it and the gender implications, and it's really interesting. I actually saw like a woman on St. Paul Street who will coach you to get rid of your vocal fry, and then ultimately I was like, fuck this, my vocal fry is part of like who I am, and I'm not gonna change it because I'm spending so much time worrying about my voice that it's hurting my content. And so like that was a really personal decision for me, but I do think it definitely affects for some people. Like there's research that shows that some people like they feel like if somebody has vocal fry, they can't even listen to it, so they'll just turn off videos or turn off the message. There's a good episode of Fresh Air with Terry Gross where she like really dives deep into it and talks about it. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad that there was somebody here who has vocal fry, is continuing to push through to do their own podcast even with it. I'm not one of the people who is annoyed by it. I know that I do it sometimes in my own speech. It is something that people are bothered by. It is like a really huge thing for women. There is a lot of discrimination about it. It's something I wanted to talk about because a lot of times when we're creating personal brand, or even when we are the social media managers or we're the face of something, and when we come on, it kind of affects how long people are able to tune into something, whether or not you have those kinds of things. And even, you know, just even recently, I don't know if anybody's on Clubhouse yet, but I hear it a lot of times when I'm on Clubhouse. I notice it. I notice it when I listen to podcasts. I notice it everywhere. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And just in general, the attention economy. Does anybody have any questions about vocal fry before I move on to this short clip about attention economy and how we can use it to our benefit, and how it is negatively affecting us as folks who are creating CTAs? Awesome. And I just wanted to thank you, Lisa, for sharing that. All right, hold on. Just finding the video. All right, can everybody see?
Yep.
Cool.
Observation into account. And because attention is the scarce resource now, it's now the thing that our technologies mostly compete for. But this whole environment that has emerged in the last couple of years to compete for our attention in scientific, systematic ways is often called the attention economy. And in the attention economy, our technologies are trying to grab our attention and direct it toward the goals that they have. And often those goals are quite different from our own. If you think about the goals that you have for yourself, I want to spend more time with family. I want to learn how to play the piano. I want to take that trip I've been thinking about and reflect on my life. These are real human goals. But if you look at the goals that technologies have for us, maximize the amount of time we spend, or the number of clicks, the number of times we can scroll or tap, the number of page views on or ad views, things like this. There is this kind of inconvenient truth that we either kind of ignore or maybe don't know about a lot of the time, which is that the attention economy, by and large, is not on our side.
Okay. I love that clip, and I'm going to go back to sharing my slideshow. We'll stay there for just a bit. I love that clip that talks about attention economy and how it is not on our sides, and it's really not. There's so much happening right now on social media in particular that it's really hard to focus. I don't know if anybody can attest to that, but I know I can. There are so many different things happening. It's just like, I don't know what to register to. I don't know if I just want to like sit under my table with my kids or under my blanket, because things are just becoming a lot. And so we'll talk a little bit about, you know, why it's important to just keep things pretty brief if you're online, if you're creating a CTA, if you're creating a call to action, a caption, or any of that. And that's why it kind of is important to decide on like a brand voice and whether or not you're going to be, I think right now, like a curious brand voice, anything that's like asking people questions, we're already deciding on enough, is something that you should steer away from. You should be very bold in what you're asking people to do. You know, if you're asking them to click on the event, tell them to go click on the event. I wouldn't ask them if they want to come. I wouldn't use that kind of language. I want to move a little bit forward through this. There are some other links that we didn't get to watch, but if you want this slideshow after, I know it'll also be available on YouTube after as well. But I also am happy to share any links with you that we just don't get to, because there's just so much rich stuff here. So we talked about the disclosures. I want to get into my call to action glossary. And so we'll talk about a couple of things like powerful command verbs. These are all things that you can use you know, when you're creating a CTA that make your message just even more impactful and even more engaging. You can say things like join us, mix. People love the word mix. I use mix a lot. Click on, link in my or our bio or their bio. See you then. What are you wearing? You could say like, what are you wearing to the event? Even when you're doing virtual things, it's important to make sure that people are engaged with, you know, every single part of what they're doing to come to your event. You know, we're not in person anymore. So, you know, creating cool dress codes for virtual events is like a really powerful way to engage folks. You could say, can't wait to see you. Shop with us. Download the, share your, what are your thoughts? It's like a question. You're giving them like a call to action and saying that they have an opportunity to answer with you. Make sure that you're answering all of your comments. Like if you are managing social media, whether it's your personal or it's for an initiative or a brand, every comment you react to definitely helps with the algorithm. You know what else helps with the algorithm is answering DMs. Anybody who's in your DM or anybody who DMs you your page will come up first for stories if you're more frequently in that person's reactions or their DMs. So that definitely boosts the way the algorithm works for you on Instagram and on Facebook, because they are the same company. You can say, want to learn more? People will tend to answer. They'll be like, yes, or like, sign me up, or, whatever it is. And once you continue to create that culture of a call and response when you're making calls to action, it just becomes healthier. You'll see a lot more conversion. And all that really means is just folks coming from that page. Anyone who came from my personal Instagram or the Made in Baltimore Instagram today, to come to the workshop is a conversion. So I'm saying they're coming from the page to actually come to the workshop. You could say explore, discover, only. People love to feel exclusive about things. So you could say this is like this is only going to be available today, or this is a one-time offer. People love the word new, buy, schedule, watch, figure, find, fix, or upgrade your. This goes on and on and on. I please encourage you to go online. If you're just running out of words for captions, I know how it is. I've been doing social media for a couple years now. And if you're running out of words and you're just running out of powerful command verbs, then please look to this. You could screenshot this. I could send it to you. You could look back to the YouTube later. And there are also passive verbs and phrases. And these are kind of I was trying to think of a word to say for these when I was, creating the slideshow. I won't say weak, but they are just not suggestive enough, I think, in my own personal opinion, to create the kind of conversion I'm talking about. You don't want to say, is it too much to ask? You don't want to say, am I tripping when I'm, you don't want to do those kinds of things. Or are we gonna get together, or was it me? Or you don't want to say were we connect? You don't want to use these kinds. And I'm just kind of going down the list. Do you feel like coming? If I say, do you feel like coming to Baltimore's homecoming? Do you think that I would come, to that? Or how would you feel about that if I asked you like that on Instagram or social media? Would you repost it? If I said, would it be too much to ask you to repost this? If you're doing direct mail or you're in a newsletter, I wouldn't say must or can. I would say, some of these other powerful ones. I would say, oh, new to our website. I would say click on. I would say join us. I would say download I would say watch, figure out, explore. These all sound so just command. They just bring so much command to the page. Might we assume that you don't want to it just sounds different? Can anybody hear the difference between them? Cool. All right. So we can go on. We talked about conversion already. But does anybody have any questions about conversion specifically? If you have any questions, please. I'm here. Okay, or we can wait till the end. We talked about caption. We're doing good. I want to talk about color. So there are just little things we can do with colors to help people better associate or positively associate us with something they've seen in the past. And I even did that here today in my own presentation, and I'll go back and I'll show you how I did that. Just 1 second. I'm going to stop this share and I'm going to go here. 1 second. If I can find the screen. All right. I did this. Can you guys see that? Do you see the similarity between what I'm wearing and what beautiful Amanda Gorman is wearing, and how recently you saw that and how it might cause you to tune in more because it's something you've been seeing over and over and over? These are the kinds of things you want to do with your brands. I won't completely show the clip because it's just too amazing. Yellow is an awesome color. It's something I use a lot when I'm doing, brand marketing. It really calls the attention. Yellows, browns, people of faces, we'll talk about all that good stuff. But it just really does cause you to think about the way that you're seeing things and the way you're recalling things. And it's, again, another form of a callback. So the same way that Richard Pryor was using those phrases about, being on the basketball court or seeing the barbershop quartet, visually, we remember things like this. We remember these color palettes, and it helps us to tune in or buy in a little bit deeper, when we're dealing with brands. I will go back to my slideshow. All right. So we'll go through. We did that. Oh, icons. The same way like I just showed Amanda Gorman, I'll show you a couple of examples of icons coming up. There's a couple of visual examples I want to get through. So these are some examples of like philosophies, tones, and theories that I have about call to action. And my philosophies are just a couple of core ideas about what should be included specifically in a call to action, the tone that you can use in a call to action, as well as my theory around some of the posts that you guys have, like I said, and I could tell you a little bit about yourselves, give you a quick read. That's what I would do. So my philosophies are about personalization. Humans should feel like you are talking directly to them. You don't want to feel like they don't want to feel like you're talking to their friend or their mom. They don't want to feel like you're selling something to their mom. They want to talk directly to you as a brand. Call to action should be action oriented, like click on, buy, join, sign up, order now, link in bio, those kinds of things. Humans literally need next steps. Tell them what you'd like them to do. Don't just post a picture of, a bottle of shea butter and just hope they know exactly what you mean. You have to say, these are the new products we have here at Made in Baltimore today. If you go to da 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 da. And that first sentence is so important. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a second too. We have emotion, we want to tug on those heartstrings. There are some people who may have been earlier in my presentation more family oriented. And so if I talk about my grandmother, or, as Richard Pryor is talking about a basketball court, it brings forth memories. So it's a tool, presentations can, really help us in that way. So when we are talking about and demonstrating these things, we want to make sure that we're pulling on emotion. Another thing about tone is you want to be either humorous, you can use humor at a time like this. I just chose a couple things. There's so many different things you can do with tone, but these are some of my favorite. I love to be funny. I love to tell a good joke. I love to make people laugh. I love to make people smile. At a time like this, your brand might want to go a little bit more somber. You might want to kind of go, with what's happening with all of the loss that we're facing as far as like COVID and things like that. Or you could stay completely neutral. And I'll show you examples of all of these things. There are a couple pictures of some sites and things and some brands that I'm going to show you as well. I have a theory about inclusion and empathy. I think there are a lot of things, again, that could really make us feel like we belong, with a brand, or that we belong to them and with them. Some of those things are like music, using familiar songs, using icons. I talked about Amanda Gorman, how I'm dressed like her, mirroring, making people see themselves in your brand or in the words, in the call to action as you're crafting it. This is an example of something that dropped today. This is a good friend of mine. His name is Devin Allen, and he is a Baltimore photographer who has come up with his own shoe line alongside Under Armour. And so what we see here, right, is a lot of ambiguity or neutrality, right? So we're not seeing a lot of colors in the pictures. We're not seeing anyone, we see him, we see some young girls, we see a boxing gym. We know that a lot of these things are icons of Baltimore. He's an icon of Baltimore himself. You see him here, he's smiling, he's near a row home. You see the girls, they're playing, they're in front of Charm City Mead Works. I know personally that this is a rapper, a local rapper named Baby Callow, and actually to her left in the picture, no one's going to know this, but this is Kondwani Fidel's little sister. He's another writer. So there's these little things in here that are really going to make me think that this is Baltimore. You know, this is really, I love seeing this basketball hoop with the crate. It's on the abandoned home. There are things, but nothing on this page. I screenshotted this verbatim. It does not say buy. It does not say buy this. It does not say try this. It doesn't say the shoe dropped today. It doesn't say any of those things, but he's using icons. The team that he, is at Under Armour with him is using icons. They're using local icons. They're using ambiguity. Even the lack of color in his black and white photos is something that is an icon. We know his biography, right? Some of us might know his work, others of us might not, but I thought this was a beautiful example of how we can use neutrality and ambiguity to create a call to action. We know that the shoe is dropping. We see what's happening with the campaign. It's very Baltimore centric. It makes us feel at home. There are those little things that some people in certain neighborhoods are going to know. Some people are going to know that that's Tink. They're going to know that that's Connie's little sister. Other people are not going to know. They're going to know Charm City Mead Works. You have to kind of speak to everybody, even when you are creating images. So I just wanted to use that as an example. There are a couple of more examples. This is Warby Parker. I want to show you, can anybody, I just want to see if anybody can tell me how they feel they may have used ambiguity or what the call to action might be here. Can anybody tell me?
I'm giving diversity.
Try and shop, or
What'd you say?
Try. Is that what you were looking for? Sorry.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Does anybody else see any of the other things that I might have listed?
Take a quiz. I'm like, Mimi.
Inclusion.
Anything else?
Sign in.
Okay.
I think like the colors are very like modern and neutral.
Absolutely.
I think free always works.
Yep. And I'll show you one that we might not notice just by looking at it, but when we say blue light filtering lenses for any pair, does anybody know what the blue light filtering does? They're not telling you, so they're using ambiguity here. They're not telling you exactly what it is, but they make you want to click on it. We all know, some of us might know that the blue light filtering helps with being on the computer for long periods of time, but they're not saying that. It's not blue lights filtering to help with your eyes hurting at the end of the day. Like, that's not what it says. It's just a short phrase, but it makes you want to click on it, So let's move on to the next one. This is an email I had in my inbox, and they use personalization. How did this large company that makes these slideshows, these magazines, all of that, it's like a publishing app. How did they know my name? You know what I mean? Like, why would they say Alanah? It's kind of scary, but also it made me want to click on it because it said my name. And you can do that when you're using MailChimp or, many of these other applications that you're sending out your stuff on, or even if you are on Instagram, use people's first name. Go to their page. Before you comment, I use this as a habit all the time. Before I comment back, I go to someone's page and I find out their first name or their nickname or something. And I say it, and it makes people feel a little bit more connected to me or to that brand. And so this is one of those ways. So does anybody else see anything else as far as what the CTA might be in this particular email?
It can be kind of the fact that they said we thought you'd like these is, they're trying to build a relationship and let you know that they have an idea of you know, what your interests are, and they're trying to appeal to that.
Absolutely. I thought that was a really nice touch. You know, they don't know me. They don't know, you know, like in Devin's examples that, you know, that I live in Baltimore or anything like that. All they know is my name. And they said they thought that I might like, and I like that. I was like, maybe I do like it. I'm gonna go to the next example. Okay, so sometimes we have these things, you know, where it's like a pop-up window that comes up as soon as you go to the site. And there's a lot talking to me right now. I see women, it's underlined already. I haven't hovered over anything. They know, they must know already. You don't notice things like this, but a lot of brands, once they've captured some of your information, they can tell, and they already have this personal information about you, or they're asking you for your information. You can put your email. You know, they've created a lot of CTA here. They're saying extra 20% off. Become an insider. What's an insider? I'm already peaked. I'm like, can I click on this? How do I become an insider? I already put my email in, as you can see. I want to be an insider. I want points on every purchase, free shipping and returns, a birthday gift, and so much more. They're saying so much in this one call to action, just on their website, just right here. You have a code that you can use already. Shop now, details, join now. There's like a lot. And sometimes you know, less is more for me. I don't like to do so much of this, even just in Instagram captions, but you know, this is definitely an example of a lot of CTA happening here. This one is really important to me. So, like I said in the example a couple of slides back with what we saw with like Devin Allen's Under Armour release, you want people to be able to see themselves. I want to go back and I want to look at the words again. So mirroring is something that you want to do when you're creating a call to action. You want people to see themselves. And even here, they've used specifically like a very ambiguous set of models. You know, there's a Black man and there's a white woman. There's not just one white woman, and there's not two white women. There's two people, both Black, white. You can kind of see yourself in this. You know what I mean? The tones are neutral. Even here, like for me as a plus size woman, when I go to sites like Universal Standard, they have it so that you can click on the images and see it on everybody. So think about this as you're creating shoots for your brand, as you're creating flyers for your brand, as you're using stock images, or even as you're bringing in local models. Make sure that there's inclusion in every way of size. So if you're promoting a new tote bag, you know, for Made in Baltimore, or you're, you know, promoting, you know, Baltimore's homecoming, and you just want someone to see themselves as being in the seat, in the virtual seat, make sure that you're using images that kind of make everyone feel welcome. And so when I go to sites like this and I see women with body types like mine, it makes me want to buy more. It's very expensive. Universal Standard is not cheap. And so they do such an amazing job with this kind of thing. And they also are using, they don't have a lot of call to action here. They do say things like recycle with us. And so there's a little bit of empathy there. I don't know, there's not a lot, but it still makes you want to buy. That level of inclusion and empathy with the body type makes me want to buy, at least. This is from my own personal Instagram. And so, you know, everybody, does anybody still read the newspaper? Does anybody pick it up all the time, like every day? Which ones do you guys pick up?
Usually the New York Times.
New York Times. Okay. Does anybody else read the newspaper?
Yeah, we do the New York Times too, but I do most of my newspapers online.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Does
I look at
anybody else read
Washington Post online? Yeah.
Washington Post? Cool. Gotcha. So yeah, I do some writing, like for some local publications, and every time a paper comes out that I've written in, I go and I take a picture, and I go the extra mile. So I could, as like just my personal brand, I could just, you know, sit at my kitchen table, hold the paper up, and do it that way. But to me, it's a lot more compelling to go the extra mile. Like when I wrote this piece about Cahoots Brothers, which is local to Remington, the neighborhood that I live in, like I went and I drove around the corner to Cahoots Brothers, or I walked over there. I forgot what I did, but I went that morning and I took it and I took the picture right in front of Cahoots Brothers. Or, you know, I used colors, that use of colors here, like where I wrote this piece about, there's a learning specialist who wrote a book about employment for young Black boys in Baltimore. And so there's a mural that's over there by the Deutsch Foundation building. And I forget the artist's names. It'll come to me. But it is something, you know, where I go and I go that extra mile to create content. That is also a call to action. You know, in going here, I'm either calling you in this picture to go visit Cahoots Brothers or to read this piece. Or, you know, in this other one, you know, you might feel encouraged to go and read the book. And so it really just is all about the images that we're putting out there. And so that's another thing to think about, you know, as we're creating a call to action. And I would love to, like I said, for you guys to have a little bit of time to share your examples. I know we have about maybe 15, 20 minutes left to get through everything. So here are some video examples of calls to action. There's one of them is like really my favorite. I'm gonna stop my sharing my screen of my presentation and we can go to this. Hold on. I'm gonna share it. All right, so in this one, we're gonna see like use of icons. We're gonna see definitely some of those power verbs that we talked about. And this is one where like everyone is gonna know these two characters that eHarmony has put into this ad. And this is something we can even do when we're using, you know, when we're creating a call to action, just even for our personal brands, for our businesses, for our initiatives. This is something we can also do. It's extremely hilarious to me, but we're gonna watch it real quick, or a portion of it.
Satan?
Hi. 2020.
Please. Call me 2020. So where are you from?
Hell.
Me too. Oh, save me. I've been feeling so alone. I keep waiting for you, but you never come. It's this in my head. I don't know what to think. He knelt to the ground and pulled out a ring and said, Juliet, you never have to be alone. I love you, and that's all I really know. Talk to your dad, go pick out a white man. Let's go.
I just don't want this year to end.
What?
Okay. That is hilarious to me. The first time I saw it, I was like, this team is on it. Like, that is so good. It really uses, like I said, that humor. Larger question. Oh, I didn't see. I'll have to go back into the chat to see what that question was. But yeah, I mean, the use of like 2020 being personified as the woman, and like Satan being her eHarmony match, and him saying he's from hell and her saying she is too, is crazy hilarious. It's super relatable. We all know 2020 was a hellish year. You can change your calls to action. You don't have to always stay the same. You know what I mean? Like, you can go along with the times. If you have a traditional way of marketing some of your stuff, you can ebb and flow with what's happening in the real world. You don't have to always create a fake professional voice. You know, you can make a little fun. We saw that with a lot of brands and what they did with the Bernie Sanders image about a week ago. You know, something in pop culture happened or in politics happens, and we saw that image time after time. If you did not use that image for your marketing in the last 2 weeks, you have failed. No, I'm sorry, you didn't fail. But it was a really smart thing for a lot of brands to do, you know, to use something that's familiar and relatable, you know, in their call to action. So I really appreciate that video for that. Does anybody have any questions about what I just said? And I'm going to go back to sharing my presentation. Okay. All right, so we looked at the eHarmony video. There's a craft that Union Craft Brewing did locally that I really enjoyed last year. We're not going to take the moment to go and do that, as we are already about an hour and 11 minutes in, and I would love to hear from you and get some of your examples. Like I said, here we go. Now you know, you and you too. If you have anything that you want to share with me live in the moment, and you would like to get some feedback about it, this is even the portion for Q&A. So I would love to hear from you all. If you have links or you have anything you want to share, or you want me to review something for you, I'm happy to. If you have a call to action that you're about to put out, or that you've put out already, if there are any questions already in.
This is Destiny speaking. I have a call to action that I would love for you to assess with the group. Should I send it to you, or how are you going about doing it on this platform? Sharing
I guess, if you want to send a link in the chat, I could do it that way.
Let me try that. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Thank you, Madison, for your compliment about my presentation. Okay, here we go. I will click on it. It's just loading, everybody, and then I'm going to share it with you and we'll talk about it in real time.
Don't hurt my feelings, guys. Ladies and gents.
This is a safe. This is a safe space. All right. Hold on. Let me stop my share. All right, so everybody, this is Destiny's. We're going to play this quick video, and we're going to talk a little bit about the call to action that she's creating here. Here we go. I love it. I think this is awesome, Destiny. You've done an amazing job creating a call to action here. Yes, of course. I see a few things, you know. You're giving us numbers, which is a really important thing to do when we're creating a call to action too. Is you're giving us like a tangible number of how many books you've sold already, right? We already know, you know, it's February, it's Black History Month. We see the name of your book is bigger than everything on the bottom portion of the page. I love that you're using and sticking to your brand colors. It's awesome. You've also used this very personal image, this beautiful headshot of yourself. Very powerful imagery. I agree, Sarah. Thank you for that. And then we get into the second piece of it. and you say visit my website today. Like that's a very powerful command verb. It's beautiful. It's perfect. I don't have any critique about this, and I think it's ready for the world, Destiny.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that feedback. I'm one that struggles with everything being tech savvy and social media. I'm more of a personable person. Like I do so much better with in-person encounters. So me trying to market my brand and my book on social media just makes me very nervous at times. And some people who follow me may be surprised to even hear that.
I'm surprised to hear it. You seem so good at it. Does anybody else have any example that they might want to share with the group? Or any questions? Does anybody have any questions about crafting the perfect call to action? Any questions about any of the slides? I'm happy to go back to things. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit of a side, so I could be like.
Alanah, if people are having, maybe some stage fright or are still processing a lot of the information you gave, would it be safe to say that they could reach out to you after the fact with questions?
Absolutely. So this is my contact page. This is a small group. I trust all of you. I'm really happy that we got to meet each other today. I'm so glad that you all came out to Made in Baltimore's Tools of the Trade workshop with me, Alanah Nichole, about crafting the perfect call to action. This is my cell phone number. You can text me if you have questions about the presentation. This is also my Instagram and my Calendly, where you can make time with me on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. That's when I don't have class. There are some questions that might cost you money for me to answer, just to be clear. There's some things that I'm willing to clarify about the workshop, but if you need like a consultant, that is another thing. And I also just have a very full plate. And so I may not be able to take it, but I could refer you to some folks because I know some really awesome folks in Baltimore and beyond who are, doing some CTA work and some brand marketing and all that good stuff. So
I wanted to know if you had any
that's all.
For us to use. Like, what platform did you use to create this wonderful PowerPoint? Any suggestions on platforms you use to create call to actions? I'm familiar with Canva, but I wanted to know if you had any others.
Absolutely. So another amazing app, Canva is God to me, but Adobe Spark, it doesn't necessarily require you to have like Adobe skills, but it is another site very similar to Canva. It comes with a little bit more, it's kind of glitchy at times, but it does work. I want to say there's a couple apps I use on my phone as well. Sometimes when you see a call to action, we could talk about reposting. You could repost things. I use Repost app. I use VSCO, which is a camera app. That's how I get a lot of really amazing camera quality, really good camera quality pictures for a lot of the pages that I manage. I would say there's all kinds of like, if you look up like text apps, you can get like things where you could make quotes. I don't use them a lot. I usually just use my Canva for them, but I used to use them. And Destiny, I'd be happy to elaborate on that or send you a couple links later on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course. Of course.
All right. Thank you all for coming. Can we please give it like a nice like virtual hand clap for Alanah, please? A nice ASMR clap. But yeah, if you all have some time, we actually have a special guest with us, Sean. He is a economic development officer with the BDC, and he has some quick information about an upcoming grant that some of you might be interested in.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to make a quick plug for the Baltimore Development Corporation grant that's available for restaurants, coffee shops, taverns, anything really selling food or drink. So if you have one or know of someone, please send it their way. I will post it in the chat. Post now. I accidentally posted just to Andy. And also want to make a plug for my alma mater, the Johns Hopkins Business School. Right now, they're doing a community consulting lab, so they're pairing groups of students with any Baltimore-based business, kind of helping them with cash flow projections, customer segmentation, any type of like market research, things like that. So if you're interested in that as well, I will also post the link in the chat. It's a really quick kind of, I wouldn't even say application, it's like a Google form, just to trying to get to know more about the business. So if you're interested in that, or if you know people who are interested, please send it their way. The deadline for that is February 10th. And yeah, please apply. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all. You all have been such an amazing audience. Alanah, you have been such an amazing instructor. I always find myself with these workshops learning just the most interesting information, seeing apps that I see every day utilized in such amazing ways. I wouldn't have known that you made that in Canva unless you said it out loud, what you did. So thank you so much. Thank you to PNC Charitable Trust. Thank you to M&T Bank. And again, thank you all for coming. This has been Crafting the Perfect Call to Action with Alanah Nichole Davis. And I hope you all have a very amazing and productive Friday.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks,
Have a good
guys.
weekend, everyone.